This is a compressor. This is a compressor. These are compressors. This is a compressor. In this video, we're going to look at compressors. Now, compression is the bread and butter, not literally, of music production, be it tracking, mixing, mastering, etc. But a video of me dialing in a nice bit of compression would be very boring. So what I thought I'd do instead is try and use these compressors to deliberately colour sounds, change sounds, maybe even transform sounds or help transform sounds in conjunction with some other equipment. So first we're going to use this Alesis 3630. This compressor was launched in the early 90s and was a budget unit, but has some surprisingly famous users because they weren't famous at the time and so they used what they could afford, which was this. A story that seems to repeat itself with music tech. The 3630 is a stereo compressor with two sidechains. If you don't know what a sidechain is, it's basically a common function of many compressors that uses one signal to control the compression of another. Now, whilst that has a utilitarian application, you can get creative with it. I've got a sequence from my DAW running through this Arturia KeyStep Pro, which is converting it to CV and gate and sending it to this Roland SH2. The SH2 then runs through an old Boss analog delay and the BitQuest, which is in pitch shifting mode. This all runs into the 3630, which is sidechained by a drum beat from the Isla S2400 below it. Now, you won't hear the drum beat, but you will hear its effect and also how the compressor affects the effects that the synth is running through. Okay, we'll put that down and move on to the next sound. Now this time I have two sequences running from my DAW via the KeyStep Pro to the ARP Avatar and the Roland SH2. These sequences are in 5/8 and 7/8 time respectively, so we have some polymetric fun going on. They run into the two inputs of the Strymon Big Sky reverb, which is set to the choral mode for vocal type tones. The Big Sky outputs then run into the two channels of the 3630. These are then sidechained discretely by a kick and snare respectively, from the S2400. Okay, so we've certainly managed to change the sounds with the 3630. Let's do one more sidechain, and this time probably the oldest trick in the book. I'll take some chords from my Prophet 10, which are coming via MIDI from my DAW. I'll run the Prophet into the external input of this Roland RS505 so that I can make use of the stereo ensemble, which will convert the mono Prophet to stereo. These two channels then run into the 3630, which is sidechained by a 4-to-the-floor kick drum from the S2400, which will make the chords pump in time to the track. I've activated the stereo link so that we've got the same behaviour on the left and right. Okay, enough sidechaining, let's get distressing. These compressors, designed by Dave Durr, came out in the 90s and are still in production now. They're one of the most widely used hardware compressors in professional studios, so I'm sure you've heard of them. I'm going to take a bassline from the SH2 and run it through a phaser and then into the Distressor. Now, the beauty of this is that at high resonance or reactance settings, phasers can be pretty pokey. But if we compress the bejesus out of the signal, we can push the effect harder without having that problem. Especially as the Distressor has a setting in the detector section that pushes the mid frequencies into the compressor harder than others. Okay, very nice. Let's do some drum squishing. I've got some samples I made with some 70s drum synths and a space echo which I've loaded into my S2400. Using the Distressor, we can get those sounds pumping and give the space echo baked into the samples an unnatural presence. Okay, nice. Let's take a pair of Distressors and two different effects, a Super Ego, which is going to be latching sounds, and a modded Boss Flanger, which is going to be modulating sounds. I'm going to run some drum layers from my S2400 through these effects and the Distressors. So there we go, some experiments with compressors. I think some sounds we did transform in combination with effects that were hitting the compressor, and we had the gating from the sidechain, which was making them stutter. That was quite interesting. Other sounds we coloured, but I wouldn't say we transformed. I guess a compressor deals with dynamic range, so that's not always going to transform the source material. It's just going to change its dynamic range and maybe change the tonal balance where parts of the sounds are brought out and others are squashed back down. But when you hear everything together, which I'm going to play you in a second, I think the overall effect is quite marked. So I thought this was interesting to do. If you're wondering why I didn't use the Vesta Fire compressor that I showed in the intro at all during the video, it's because when I fired it up, there was a technical problem with it and it wasn't working properly. So I used the Alesis and the Distressors, which gave us all we need in the end. So I hope this was interesting. It's a bit of a different video. Let me know if it was or wasn't. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.